ridiculous. So this isn't going to be anything interesting for anybody except for Kennedy, who is my marketing genius. So you're not invited to leave, but you're going to be bored to tears. You're going to get behind the scenes look in terms of how we are trying to create interesting content. So the reality is, so if you're looking, if any of these stick out to you, like, hey, that would actually be something interesting to watch, please let us know. However, because honestly, one of the hardest things with all of this, I called my mom last night, talked to her, and tell her about how difficult it is to actually come up with storylines and viral stuff, and not viral stuff, but things with a hook. Actually, how to create completely boring stuff interesting. No one realizes how important the environment is in which it surrounds them. We build it, right? And we drive in it, we live in it, and most of it's terrible. Why? That becomes the big giant question. Why? Is it because all of us are untalented and we suck? Not necessarily. It's because we have a giant knowledge gap. So anyway, how do we close that knowledge gap? We're looking at doing different entertainment type of content with a little bit of dappled education in it. A little bit of edutainment, as it were. So I have not read through this yet, Kennedy. And I'm going to just read through it and just share my thoughts as I read through it with you. So this one, the script is Chicago. These Chicago streets. These blocks show up in movie sets again and again, but why? This isn't just about the skyline, it's about something deeper, something that the camera can feel. These streets weren't designed to be famous. They were just designed well. That's exactly why Hollywood keeps coming back. These streets weren't designed to be famous, they were just designed well, and that's why Hollywood keeps coming back. I like it. I like it. Here's a different one. You've seen this street in movies that made you laugh, cry, and dream, and someone of this street, we have to actually have a street then. You've seen these streets in movies that made you laugh, cry, and dream. And somehow, it always feels right. But it's not magic, it's design. And here's why design matters. Here's another one. Hollywood isn't coming back here for the skyline. They're coming back because these streets do something most new neighborhoods can't. They make you feel something. I mean, that's the truth. That's the absolute truth. Hollywood keeps coming back because these streets, not because of the skyline, but because these streets make you feel something. And that is absolutely true. Why do these streets make you feel something? These streets make you feel something that other neighborhoods can't, or that new neighborhoods can't. And that's the absolute truth. What's interesting is when you begin to go look at like the Truman Show and other kind of idealistic neighborhoods that movies are set in. They capture the similar magic. There's something about it. It creates a sense of place. The design in and of itself creates a sense of place in which is a perfect backdrop for storytelling. Suburbs, the suburban life that most of us live, everything prior, after 1940s beyond, there isn't a lot of, it's not a really good backdrop for storytelling other than just a bland life. We all wear jeans. I mean, seriously, we really should just do this one where we just compare fashion and architecture through the ages, and the kind of the cultural inconsistencies. Oh my gosh, I'm yawning only because it's like 4 in the morning. I guess it's 5 in the morning now. Anyway, that's interesting. Just interesting. Okay. So, re-engage. Most of us live on streets that aren't built to hold story. That's true. They're wide, blank, disconnected. They don't frame a character. They definitely don't frame a scene. Yeah, most of us live on streets. That's the absolute truth. Most of us live on streets that don't. Most of us live on streets that don't actually frame anything. They don't frame a scene. They're not backdrops to character. They're not backdrops to story. They're wide blank and feel disconnected. That is the truth. You know, it's interesting because one of the things when I was designing the River Bottoms Ranch, which is kind of a barn, an agricultural wedding venue, I guess we can call it. It's a Dutch-style barn. And beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But one of the things I told the owners in our very first meeting, they came to me with a bunch of ideas. I'm like, yeah, you don't want any of that. What you want to do is you want to be able to set it up so that the whole thing tells a story. And you want to make sure that you're maximizing the overall vignettes of this particular building so that you can take photos in, I don't know, 20, 30 different places, and they're equally good. However, after looking at enough photos from the River Bottoms Ranch, it is interesting because most people still do the same sort of things, and it's trying to analyze where people take their photos, where they take most of their photos. It's the interesting part, the part that people seem to feel is most epic. One of the scenes that I set up in that particular building, no one's ever done yet. I have this little Juliet balcony, this little balcony that comes off the bride's room, and there's this beautiful arch right below that balcony. I always thought that there would be girls up in the balcony looking down at the grooms down below, but no one's ever done that yet. It's kind of funny. So anyway, so we've got a split screen Chicago street one side, modern lifeless suburb on the other. Kids playing Steeple Town, blah, blah, blah. But here in Chicago's oldest neighborhoods, you feel something. It's like, it says here there's a rhythm. It's almost like it's musical. I mean, that's really what it is. It's almost like it's musical. And it's playing a song. And you can see the song. It's like music that has been not petrified. What's the word I'm looking for? Frozen music. I think that's what some architect used to describe it sometime somewhere. Architecture is like frozen music. And so what is the music? What is that chord if it's frozen music? So rhythm is such a huge part of music. If there's no rhythm, that music is just chaos. If it's too regularized rhythm, that music is absolutely boring and also lifeless. It's richness, it's just stage. Great movie streets share one thing in common. They're layered. That's true. Trees overhead, windows with depth, materials that catch light with shadows, buildings with edges, setbacks, and textures that create contrast. Every facade has a little drama. Every corner, a little mystery. These aren't film sets. They're just really well-designed neighborhoods. Truth, absolute truth. Yep. They're layered, yeah. Great movie streets have one thing in common. They're layered. They're very layered. Foreground, background, midground. All of those things exist. Sometimes the characters play the foreground. Sometimes they're in the back. It's just, it all depends on the type of feeling you're trying to get with any camera shot. Layered with trees, richness in buildings, building textures, depth of windows, natural materials. I don't like the word setbacks. So buildings with edges and textures that create contrast. Every facade, I like that. Every facade has a little drama, and the drama is created through the details. It's through contrast and details. The reason they work so well on screen is because they follow the same principles of good filmmakers use: framing, lighting, rhythm, and movement. True. The reason they work so well on screens is they use the same principles that filmmakers use. rhythm, light, movement, framing. Rhythm, light, movement, and framing. Rhythm, light, movement, framing. Framing, movement, rhythm, light. Framing, light, rhythm, movement. These streets know how to easily tell a story even without words. That is the truth. They know how to tell a story even without words. Go to any sort of ancient city that has thousands of years of history, and you can just feel it in the texture, the character, and yeah, there's so much story embedded into everything. And here's what's wild. These blocks weren't built for movies, they were built for daily life. For walking to the market, for sitting on the porch, for bumping into neighbors, but they feel cinematic because they were designed for people first, not for parking, not for square footage, not for speed, just for human life. Also, truth. Yeah, these blocks weren't just built for movies. These blocks weren't just built for movies. These blocks weren't just built for movies. Here's what's wild. These blocks weren't just built for movies. They're built for normal life. For walking to the market, for sitting on the porch, for bumping into neighbors, for walking to the market, for sitting on the porch, bumping into neighbors. But they feel cinematic because they were designed for people first. Not for parking, not for just giant homes, not for speed, just human life. Hollywood keeps coming back to these streets because they hold emotion, not in a sentimental way, but in a physical, architectural way. They create intimacy, a sense of place, a frame around a face, a doorway behind a monologue, a curve at the end of a chase. Chicago's streets know how to hold a scene because they were designed to hold us. Oh, mic drop. Actually, that sounds pretty dang good. That sounds pretty dang good. I like that. Hollywood keeps coming back to these streets because they hold emotion, not sentimentality, but in a physical architectural way. Well, Hollywood keeps coming back. Hollywood keeps coming back to these streets because they hold emotion, not in a sentimental way, but in an architectural, physical way. They create intimacy. They create intimacy, a sense of place. A frame around a face, a doorway behind a monologue, a curve at the end of a chase. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, the frame around a face, a doorway to hold a monologue, and a curve at the end of a chase. Chicago streets know how to hold a scene because they were designed to hold us. Chicago streets know how to hold a scene because they were designed to hold us. Chicago streets were designed to hold a scene because they were designed to hold us. Yep. Here's something people miss. Some architects who shaped these streets, Burnham, Root, and Sullivan, also shaped the early language of film. Set designers in early Hollywood were trained in Beaux-Arts and classical proportions, and that's why it feels familiar, because these streets and those sets, they're speaking the same visual language. Actually, that is interesting. We should dive into that more. Early sets, those big, giant, epic cinematic sets. Yeah, interesting. Okay. And then we think of movies to be make-believe. But the places we love on screen, they're often built with more care than the ones we actually live in. Hollywood didn't make these streets cinematic. Good design did. And if we want our own neighborhoods to feel this good, to look this beautiful, Maybe we don't need a bigger budget. We just need to remember how to design for people again. That's pretty good. This was Chicago. Next stop, a street that tells a completely different story. This one's ironic, but next time somehow even better. Or we're just getting started. The next neighborhood might blow this one away. We think of movies as make-believe, but the places we love on screen, they're often built with more care than the ones we actually live in. Hollywood didn't make these good design did, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so anyway, yeah, that's, what do you think? Okay, so if you're the random person who actually watched this, who isn't Kennedy, please put in the comments if this would be a completely boring thing to produce. What we're really trying to do with this one is tie in good design principles to backgrounds and how we live ourselves. What's interesting historically in the Beaux-Arts, or not Beaux-Arts, but in like medieval times or in the Renaissance, going into the Baroque period, when all of those buildings were made in Europe, the ones you've walked through, the ones that are absolutely epic, absolutely amazing, those were really constructed as a stage set. They were. When Shakespeare said all the world is a stage, he wasn't kidding. And we are mere players coming and going. And so, yeah, when Shakespeare said the whole world is a stage, that's how they designed their cities. Because you had your public life and your private life. And when you were in public, you were playing a role. And when you were playing that role, you were in the stage set in which civic life actually narrated itself, and you were a character in the overall narration. And so the backdrops, how they were organized, it really was a movie set prior to film. And that's why so many of those squares and plazas are so cinematic and timeless in that way. And if we could, it's just good design. Sometimes it doesn't cost anymore. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't, just to have good design. So anyway, let us know if that is a stupid idea or an interesting idea or a holy cow, I would watch that idea.